What's up, you guys? Welcome to Walk the Line. Unfortunately, we lose our first fight of the UFC 311 fight card, and it's no other than Johnny Walker. He has to withdraw from his bout with Bogdan Guskov. That was one of the fights that I was really looking forward to on the card, although I'm pretty much looking forward to every single fight on this card. It's that stacked. But Johnny Walker, man, he's a spectacle. If you guys didn't catch my full prediction video for UFC 311, then you guys wouldn't know that I had Johnny Walker getting knocked out in cartoon fashion. Okay, that's how I saw the fight going with Bogdan Guskov. Now Bogdan Guskov takes on the UFC newcomer, obviously taking the fight on short notice, the Samoan Billy Elekana. He's a two-time LFA veteran and a two-time PFL veteran. He trains out of North Las Vegas, fighting out of Uprising MMA, which is a smaller fight team, especially in regards to being in Las Vegas. So we will dive into the fight. We'll talk about the opening betting odds. But as always, if you could, just pause for a second and smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. And go follow me on all my social media. I got them scrolling below. I got my Twitter and my Instagram there. And you know, I just have to say, I crack myself up on my IG. If you didn't know, every Sunday I do my Sunday dump, which I throw out a bunch of memes in regards to the event that just took place the night before, right? So I just put out my UFC Vegas 101 Sunday dump, and I like my memes. I don't know. I mean, it may not be your type of sense of humor. You got to kind of have some thick skin, but they crack me up. You know, I kind of poke fun at some of the fighters that won, lost. You know what I mean? Fighters got to have thick skin and understand what it's all about. But I don't know. Comment below, or any of you guys catching my Sunday dump memes that I put out there. And if you haven't heard about them, go check them out. Let me know what you guys think. I will say this real quick. We are coming off another profitable event. Okay, how about that? UFC Vegas 101 was a good one for me. My big play was Santiago Ponzinibbio. We had 4 official plays on the card. Hopefully you guys are following me on IG so you guys can keep up to date. I always got my official plays posted in my story the night of. We smashed a huge 2-team parlay, and we had a big old play on Santiago Ponzinibbio, and it was a very profitable event. So I'm happy about that. And that's even with all the momentum that we've had from last year coming in, which I've been saying now it's like 8 months. We've been on an 8-month heater. Okay, and we can bring it into 2025, and you guys know I'm bringing that into the UFC 311 fight card. So if you guys want to work with me, reach out to me, and we can work something out so you guys can be tailing my official plays. And last thing before we head over to this new fight, which, by the way, let me just say that the opening odds are interesting to me. Okay, so I think this is an interesting line. I got some bold thoughts on it, so stick with me here. We are powered by BetUS. In my opinion, the best sports book in the game. Especially when you're taking advantage of my referral, where you get a 150% match on your first 3 deposits. Okay, you're not going to be able to find that anywhere right now. And all you got to do is reach out to me. I'll send it to you. Shoot me an email. Shoot me a DM on Twitter or Instagram. I'll get it to you. And if you sign up through my referral link, I'll also give you a special gift. And it's a gift that you're going to want to use in regards to UFC 311, which is a huge fight card. All right, you're going to have all types of lines to target on BetUS. And not only do we have a lot of MMA stuff going on, don't forget, we got the NFL playoffs going on. We got the college football championship coming up here. I mean, there's all types of stuff that you guys can be targeting, and take advantage of that. Reach out to me.
The teller.
So who is Billy Elekana, and what does he bring to the table here? First and foremost, one thing that stood out to me is he had a match lined up in November against Justin Sumter, a fighter that fought on Dana White's Contender Series twice, was finished in both of those fights by Maki Pitalo and Ian Heinisch. That was way back in the day, towards the beginning of when Dana White's Contender Series started up. Justin Sumter still, I mean, a fighter that's decently respected on the regional scene. He has a couple of victories over some old UFC vets and whatnot, but not a very high-level fighter. So, but just note, he did pull out of that fight, so obviously there was something going on there. It's been about 2 months since. It doesn't seem to be an issue here. Now, he comes into this fight on a 3-fight winning streak, comes off of a knockout against Jarrell Simmons, a fighter that was 4-0 going into that fight. So he handed him his first ever loss there. But besides that, let's be clear, when you're taking a look at his resume, there's not a lot of big names. And in fact, he even has a split decision loss against a fighter in Daniel Compton, who is a career journeyman who has a little bit of a tarnished record there. So that's kind of alarming. He went to a split decision in his second most recent fight against Chuck Campbell. Chuck Campbell, a Bellator vet. Some of you guys know him. He's actually coming off quite a big victory for himself there, but nothing really stands out too big to me. Now, he only has 8 professional fights, but do know that he had 7 amateur fights as well. And the biggest victory that he's probably ever had was a victory when he was an amateur that was over Brian Battle, a fighter that's on a tear in the welterweight division right now. Now, we know Brian Battle is not a small welterweight. In fact, he used to fight up in the middleweight division. When they fought, it was in the middleweight division, okay? And Brian Battle's still missing weight these days. So we understand Battle's a big dude, but this fight here is against a legitimate light heavyweight fighter in Bogdan Guskov, even though he's not the biggest light heavyweight fighter. He's an established light heavyweight fighter, okay? So, but you know what? Even though that's the case, when I take a look at Billy Elekana, from what I could see, he's not really that undersized here, okay? You take a look at the numbers. I mean, he's 6'2", with a 77-inch wingspan. In fact, he has a 1-inch reach advantage over Bogdan. Okay, I don't think size is going to play too much of a factor here. This is a fight where I really see both men striking it out. I think this is going to be a striker's delight. Billy Elekana is a fighter that just has 1 submission victory throughout his pro career. Doesn't show a lot there. The only thing I've seen from him that I kind of like, in a sense, is that he did fight a lower level mixed martial artist, but a fighter that had a pretty decent wrestling background, who was looking to push wrestling throughout the entire fight. And Billy Elekana defended that throughout. He did show good takedown defense. He definitely showed to know what he was doing to an extent. And the reason why I bring that up is because even though Bogdan is a career striker, he's a career knockout artist, right? You take a look at his resume, 16 victories. Out of those 16 victories, 13 of them by way of KO. We'll talk a little bit more about those in a second. But the reason why I bring up the grappling, I think if we were to see one fighter look to go that route, which I don't expect it to be the case, but if one fighter may have an advantage there, it could be Bogdan, okay? I know Bogdan surrounds himself with some high-level fighters. I've been hearing some good things coming out of the training that he's doing. I think he came in and got some work with Roman Kopylov as of recently, so he's around some of the bigger names in the game. I wouldn't be surprised if he proves to be the more well-rounded fighter in the cage if it went there. Now, again, I don't see that being the case, though. I think this is going to be a kickboxing type of match. I think Bogdan's going to be looking for his knockout. I think Elekana will be looking to do the same thing. And the thing about Bogdan Guskov is, as he came into the UFC, I actually picked him as a dog in his first UFC fight against Volkan Ozdemir. Now, he obviously flopped in that fight. And at the time, I thought he was getting exposed, because when he lost that fight, then you're looking back at all the other fights that he had, which look phenomenal on tape, okay? But then you understand they're against lower level fighters. So then when he lost to Volkan like that, it just seemed like he was completely exposed. But then he flipped it on us, because he goes out there in his next 2 fights and shows that he could replicate what he was doing outside of the UFC in it. Knocks out Ryan Spann and Zach Payoga. I mean, the Zach Payoga fight was nasty. It was a nasty KO. He's screaming in his face after he gets the job done. He's a nasty fighter, and he's going to be looking to sleep the UFC newcomer here. But again, I just want to highlight the point I was making there is the fact that Bogdan, to me, has now proven himself. Okay, he's a proven UFC fighter. Okay, it wasn't a fluke that he was getting all those KOs outside the UFC. Now, on the other hand, Billy Elekana, we talked about it. He hasn't really fought anybody. We talked about the Battle fight. That was a long time ago. Battle was so green at the time. We still need to see how Billy's going to look when he's in the UFC. And then another thing too, octagon jitters. All right, if he's one of those types of guys, I mean, this is a big moment for him. Bogdan, on the other hand, he's going to be in cruise control. He's strolling into this fight. He feels comfortable in there now. He knows he can go in there, get those types of KOs. So those are some big factors going into this fight. Now, if you haven't pulled up any tape on Elekana, let me sum him up to you and tell you why he may be a little bit of a problem for Guskov. All right, first off, he shows to be pretty technical with his striking. He does. He switches stances throughout his fights. I've seen him fight some of his fights out of the orthodox stance throughout. I've seen him fight out of the southpaw stance throughout, and then there's some fights where he's switching stances throughout the fight, okay? So he feels comfortable fighting out of both styles. Doesn't have a long list of KOs, but there's one fight where he showed to be pretty flexible, hit his opponent with a left head kick, okay? Knocked him out there. And when it comes to his hands, he's just, he seems to be in good position. I will say he doesn't really show to have big power to me. There was one fight where he actually got a knockout with his hands, and the way that it played out, you would have expected him to have starched his opponent. I mean, he was really unloading on this dude, and it took a good amount of hits to kind of crumble the opponent down to the ground there. I think Guskov, on the other hand, if he was in that same scenario, would have flatlined that dude. Another issue that Elekana brings to the table for Guskov is that we've never seen him finished thus far. And even though he only has 8 professional fights, we talked about the 7 amateur fights, put it together, about 15 fights, and we've never seen him knocked out. He is Samoan. They're known for having pretty good chins out there. and the islands. And we just haven't seen him put out like that. And if you're relying on Guskov to go out there, do what he does best when he's getting his hand raised, which is getting a KO, it may not play out like that. And if this fight goes to the judges' scorecards, Elekana showing some striking ability, maybe it's a fight that plays out somewhat close, at least in regards to where this betting line is, which let's get to it. Let's talk about the betting line. Now, the opening line that we're seeing is Guskov being about a 3-1 favorite. Okay, he's opening up right around a -300. You can get the comeback on the UFC newcomer at +250. I think that the value is more on the dog here. You take into consideration Elekana is just 29 years old. He's going to be very hungry to go out here and make this fight play out somewhat competitively. And I'm not really willing to chalk up 3-1 odds. I think Guskov is a very fun fighter, and he may go out there and just show to be at a whole nother level. But what happens if this is a fight that goes to decision and it's just a competitive kickboxing match? Do I want to have 3-1 odds on Guskov? I mean, maybe that's not that bad because he's probably actually going to settle in around a -400. I wouldn't be surprised if the line is going to get steamed, and maybe he even settles in as like a -450. That's actually probably my more accurate prediction there. So he'll be a big favorite. So you can say if you jump in on Guskov early at -300, you're getting some value there. I personally wouldn't want to be targeting Guskov. I just feel that Elekana may rise to the occasion here. I'm telling you guys, he's a pretty talented and technical striker. And to actually do have this fight going to a decision as well. So maybe that's a line or a prop target that we could be talking about as that video will be coming out later in the week. We'll see what kind of opening odds there will be for this fight to go to a decision, or for targeting a certain fighter to win via decision. I think Elekana may be able to push through and make it to the final bell. And if Guskov's winning his fights, of course, it's typically by a finish. And even when he's losing, he's typically being finished. But, we saw him subbed in his UFC debut. I don't see Elekana subbing him. I think that this could be kind of a back and forth striking type of affair. Now, before we get out of here, I just want to take a look at the updated lines for the main event and co-main event, right? What do you guys think about Arman Tsarukyan at +300? I'm curious. Comment below. Is anybody finding value on the challenger as a 3-1 underdog? All right, that first fight played out so competitively. He was just 22 years old. You guys know the story. I keep going on and on about it because I really think people kind of just overlook that whole scenario, being 22, taking that fight on short notice and having that fight play out as competitively as it has. Also, I don't think Arman has lost a fight in the UFC since that fight. I think that he defeated Mateusz Gamrot, and he's been on a tear. 3-1 odds on him. And then what do you guys think about the dog odds? You take a look here on BetUS. You can get Merab right now at a +260 underdog line. He is the current champion. All right, he's been wreaking havoc in the cage. You guys know how I feel about it. I'm going to be transparent. I think that Umar Nurmagomedov is going to be too much for him. I think that he is just the worst stylistic matchup for a fighter like Merab. Okay, he's going to stuff the takedowns, and he's going to put a whooping on him with the striking. But I want to know what you guys think. Do you guys see value on that +260 line? If you guys want to go lock those bets, and you guys can reach out to me, sign up through my link, and go head over to BetUS and lock those in. All right, guys, that's going to wrap this one up. I want to give you all a special thank you for stopping by and checking out my video. A lot more content is to come this week. We'll have that prop edition video coming. We'll have another special type of video in regards to 311. And again, thank you guys. Smash that like button before you head out. I'll catch you guys soon.
The teller.